Welcome to the DC Cybersecurity Professionals virtual meetup. Today we're going to talk about the Security Operations Center fundamentals. I have given this presentation before. You may or may not have seen it, but this actually obsoletes version 1. So on version 1, it's probably, well, actually it is the most popular YouTube video out, so over 40,000 views. I will post that link in the description. But we do have a SOC Analyst Fundamentals video, which is had over 40,000 views on it. So it was about 3 years ago. So I just figured it was time to update everything. We're going to keep it short and sweet this time, though. So last time I had a couple of my friends, Vince Jones on, who actually runs the SOC, who has run multiple SOCs at various organizations, and then Condon Balukbus, who is at Norm Shield. I believe it's a different name now, Black Kite, I believe. And he helped create a tool that I was very, very fond of. So both of them were a part of that presentation. So let's get started. One thing I'm going to always do is, I'm going to keep it real with you all. Like I said, it's going to be short and sweet. I always try to, give you an idea of what's real, and you'll see some things that, most training sessions will not talk about, but I'll talk about it because you need to be aware, right? You're going to learn some things today that may or may not get you in trouble, right? Just ensure that if you start to do some testing or look at some tools, only do it on, a platform or a network that you have, permissions to do that for. It's going to be challenging, right? I have a teach you, show you, involve you style. Most likely today it will just be all about the teaching, but provided we have time, I can show you some tools and techniques that we can use. Be mindful that, we're all on a journey. Take advantage of this time, take advantage of other members in the meetup group. We do have a Discord channel. So Alex, if you can post a link to the Discord channel. So if anyone wants to keep in touch with anyone else in there, I would definitely, or I would highly recommend that, right? We do have a channel specifically for the meetup. If you happen to miss any of our webinars or any of our virtual sessions on our YouTube channel, we do have a playlist for our virtual meetups, but we are going to create a separate playlist for the security operations information. So a little bit about me, I have some certs. I got thrown into this SOC environment immediately after high school. I joined the military, and then my very first duty station after my 4 years of active duty is what's called a Northeast, it's called an Information Operations Center. And instead of them issuing us weapons, they issued us laptops. About, I'd say maybe 6 months after being in that unit, we ended up getting deployed. And as part of that deployment, there was maybe 6 months of pre-deployment training, but the unit's mission was to be in charge of all of the network intrusions for all of Iraq. And I did that twice. I have been in cybersecurity and information security over 20 years. I joined the military in 1996. And, over time, I started to realize that, there were a lot of people that needed help and needed cybersecurity skills. And I figured it would make our job easier. So I created a meetup group in January of 2012 called the DC Cybersecurity Professionals. And originally, I created it to practice giving talks about IPv6, and then I expanded to various topics in cybersecurity. And typically what I would do is I would use the meetup group to challenge myself, and I would pick a topic that I was unfamiliar with, schedule it 90 days from now, and then challenge myself to provide 40 minutes worth of training, and then just keep building on that. And then eventually, I started creating workshops based off of my work experiences, based off of me training for certifications, and everything just kind of grew and grew and grew to the point where, I was able to do some independent consulting, start a company, create a team, and eventually create a platform where I have the ability to influence a lot of people and to help a lot of people. And that's really all I ever wanted. All right, so a little bit about my background and some of the positions that I've held. I have been, the Fusion Cell team lead at various organizations. I have worked that SOC life 15, 16 years until about maybe 6 years ago, I gave it up and I went offensive, started studying for the OSCP, and then went on that offensive path. I can assure you that learning a lot of those offensive skills will make you a better defender. So I've done 2 deployments for our SWA, which is the Regional Computer Emergency Response Team for Southwest Asia. I have done the FBI ESOC on the weekends. I have been in charge of all of the network intrusions for the Army at the 1st Information Operations Command, inside of the Cyber Intelligence Center. I have done JTF-GNO, the Fusion Cell team lead at JTF-GNO. You may know it better as US Cybercom. I did not work at Fort Meade when funny story, when they actually made the move from Arlington to Fort Meade. I sat at my desk there for 1 day, and then when I got to the car that day, I got the call that I was going to be deployed. So, yeah, fun stuff. A little bit about us, Cover6 has been around since 2013. InfoSec consulting, training. We do have some workshops coming up, and we've been organizing the meetup group, and we also do some staffing and recruiting. So if you need help with any of those things, let us know. We've built a community where we, do a lot of transfer of information. We have workshops from Security Plus, Network Plus, CISP, CYSA, and you'll see all of that on our Discord channel. And if you like capture the flag competitions, we have a CTF team. It's just a cybersecurity / InfoSec community that we've pretty much built from the ground up, and we'd love to have you join us. So we're here because, we want to talk about SOCs, right? And what a SOC is, or what is a security operations center. So it's essentially a place where, all of your rule sets, databases, server information, host information, data, essentially anything that you can gain information from about any of your devices that are on a network. You want all of that information to be sent to one place, one central location. And then at the central location, you'll have analysts and or more that will look at this information in an attempt to identify and mitigate threats on the network. I know that there'll be a lot of acronyms, a lot of tools, a lot of information that I'll put out, but also due to the limited time, I'm sure that there'll be things that I miss. So if I do miss anything, be sure to send us an email or provide a comment about it, inside of the YouTube comments, and then we'll update our slides, and we'll just keep going with that, for as long as we can. Then what does a typical SOC organization look like? A lot of it is going to be based on the needs of the organization, the amount of funding that they have, and the amount of people and tool sets that they have. But essentially, this is like a rough draft of an org chart. So of course, you'll have your individual in charge along with a deputy, and you'll have some of your main sections. If you've worked in a SOC before, you may have seen these sections, or you may have seen individuals work in multiple sections. What I always try to do is I try to ensure that the students and the people that I work with have the ability to work in multiple sections, right? As an analyst, you want to become as valuable as you can to the organization. You want the organizations to look for reasons to keep you as opposed to reasons that they can get rid of you. So I always say that, you should train, or I always like to train people so other people will get fired, right? So you can perform their jobs as well, right? You always want to get to a point where, you can do what you can do plus whatever they can do, but they can't do everything that you can do, right? So try to keep that mindset. So we'll go over these sections just really quick. You have your watch floor, your fusion cell, where I worked, and we'll save that for last. The intel section, your IR, your incident response and handling, your vulnerability management, forensics, your dev, and then your offensive cyber, or your OCO, which is a pretty big deal now because we've recently had some kinetic attacks. And by kinetic attacks, I mean people are on one side pushing buttons on the keyboard, and they're using those buttons in attempt to have people die or to have them physically harmed, right? So a kinetic attack is a very, very big deal. If you're unfamiliar with it, it is the attack where they try to change, I guess, purification levels at a water plant in an attempt to have everyone drink that water. So the watch floor, right? In your organization, when you look at this org chart, think of this also as like an organization tree as well, where you would have what's called a CNDSP, or your computer network defense service provider. It's essentially the organization that you report to. So there will be reports up and also reports down. There may be subordinate organizations that you are in charge of. And it's good to, when you get there, to have a really good understanding of that environment. And I know it's going to take some institutional knowledge. It's going to take some time. But that's one of the first things that you want to figure out, like who do we report to and who reports to us. So on the watch floor, you have your watch officer and your watch analyst. And this is typically where most people will begin their careers. On the watch floor, your primary function is to be aware of everything that's going on in your organization as well as your subordinate organizations, because the watch officer is going to need to be aware of all of that information in case they need to report that information to the higher ups, right? For us, who was it, Dernza, or the director of NSA, every day there was a briefing or some F3 EAD bullets, and I hated them. All right, so we're gonna save the fusion. The intel section, that's the section that has the ability to do the long-term research on an individual or an organization. They have the ability to go back to birth on an individual if they want, figure out who family members are, and things of that nature. So for you, this may be the second place that you would go. Not saying that you don't need to be technical in the intel section, but a lot of it is research and reporting. And then from there, if you want to start to move around to different sections, you can. So typically the watch floor, and then there's probably a cross between intel and then the incident handling section. So inside of the incident response section, you have your incident handling and incident handlers. For that section, there's kind of two acronyms. Well, for all of it, there's two acronyms that I like to focus on. That is the MTTI and the MTTM. And that is the mean time to identify and the mean time to mitigate. So you're not gonna find everything, you're not gonna block everything, but the faster you can find it and the faster you can address it, the better off you'll be. So in there you have your incident handlers, right? Oftentimes, this is a 24/7 function. Oftentimes, to get your foot in the door, you may have to be an incident handler, but at an odd time, right? Maybe you have to start at the overnight shift, right? If you can get in that way, get in. Also, a lot of these SOC operations are starting to go remote now. So there are remote options for the SOC analysts. Ideally, you want to be an incident responder. So the incident responders are the individuals that are highly, highly technical, have experience with incident handling, incident response, forensics, and we're going to get into all of that. Those are the individuals, you're highly paid responders. So if you're defense, aka blue team, then being an incident responder is kind of like the top of the totem pole. Your vulnerability management, I would say about 90% of it is, software updates, identifying vulnerabilities, right? A lot of the work is there in that section. It may seem like all they do is do periodic or weekly vulnerability scans, but I can assure you that there's a lot more to it, right? Like you need to be aware of current threats. You need to be aware of different vulnerabilities, things like Patch Tuesday, right? And then Exploit Wednesday, where people are actually creating exploits for the patches that came out that Tuesday. Also, they have what's called a POAM, which is a plan of action and milestone. So not only do you need to have your machines up to date with the latest patches, oftentimes you'll have things like a rogue device, which is just a machine that's either not connecting to the network or a machine that isn't getting the updates properly, either due to some type of technical difficulty or connection to the network, what have you. The vulnerability management team will need to identify what that machine is, and then as part of the POAM, the plan of action and milestone, they'll need to explain why they either can't get that fixed or why they can't apply the latest patches. As an analyst, you will want to know if you have any machines on your network that don't have the latest and greatest patches. So they're important. The forensics team, right? Memory, malware analysis. You don't want to waste their time, right? Typically what will happen is if you get a machine that's been, compromised and they have used some malware that no one has ever seen before, typically someone in the malware analysis section will want to do some research on that. What's happening is that all of these sections, when it comes to the reporting, hopefully all of these sections will have some type of input, and we'll talk about that soon. Your dev team is the team that essentially creates new tools specifically for your organization. So maybe they'll go out different conferences, they'll go and see what the latest emerging technologies are, and they'll try to, I don't want to say recreate those technologies, but develop, a suite of tools that you're already using, and hopefully try to put that all in one place. The offensive cyber, that's the section that has the ability to hack back. That was something that was on the hush for a very long time. But most recently, it seems like more organizations are starting to incorporate that more and more. If there was something that was missing, I happen to also be a part of a flyaway team. And what that is incident responders or individuals that have, a really good skill set. And what that flyaway team does is, if you have an organization that's just like really, really hosed and they need help right away, then just like you see in the movies where, the people come in and be like, hey, I'm with the FBI, I'm taking over. It's just like that. Well, you go in, get a desk, printer, take a look at everything that's going on, and you just try to get your subordinate organization on track as fast as you can. So lastly, the fusion cell where I worked. So the fusion cell is the team that takes all of the information from all of these organizations and then reports that to the rest of the world. And it's similar to the watch floor, but different. So the watch floor communicates within the organization. The fusion cell communicates with the world. And it was really, really fun, stressful, but fun to, have what's called the VTC or the Ops Roundup. And that's basically where all of the other analysts from all of the other organizations get together and we talk about what we've seen and what we're doing about it. And then you share that information out in an attempt to stop threats. So one of the analogies I like to use is the Vegas analogy. And in Las Vegas, you know that there's tons of casinos, but you also know that, there isn't just one company that owns all of the casinos, right? There's multiple companies that own multiple casinos. And then in your casinos, you'll have things like your sensors, and your sensors would be the cameras. And then you'll have your analysts who are in some back room watching everything that's going on the cameras. And then you'll have your, intrusion detection systems or your intrusion prevention systems or your pit bosses, to where if anything happens, you make a call or you send some instructions to your pit boss or to your tools to do something upon identifying a threat. And this threat, on a technical basis could be someone that's performing a scan, someone that's trying to do a reverse shell, malicious email, what have you. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to identify this threat. The next thing you want to do is you would look and see what this threat is doing. And then based on your security policies, you're going to determine how fast or what you're going to do with this individual. You're either going to kick them out for an hour, for a day, are you going to block them forever? You're going to add them to a block list. And then the next thing that you would do is you would share that information with everyone else that has a casino. And in a matter of days, you could essentially be blocked out of all of the casinos in Vegas. And that's exactly what everyone's trying to do with cybersecurity and information security. It's a never-ending struggle, right? You will always have job security, right? It's never going to end. So this is a really good field to get into. Any questions with that? Because we're going to start talking about some of the skills that you need. One of my favorites, as you can see, is the ability to self-study. If we don't have to hold your hand, if I can tell you, hey, I need you to go install Security Onion, right? I want you to be able to figure that out, right? I know that you can figure it out, or else I wouldn't have asked you, right? That's typically how it works. So if you have the ability to do some research, figure out what it is, what it does, why it's important. Find a video where you can see a tutorial of someone else that tried to put it together. You try to put it together on your own, and then you're able to troubleshoot, right? That's what it's really all about. But there's more. There's so much that you'll need to know just to be halfway decent. And I'm not trying to frighten you or anything, but you can do it. Don't try to do it all at once, right? It's like going to the gym. You're not going to spend 6 hours in the gym, on day one, right? Build up to that. Learn about the fundamentals. Learn about network mapping with Nmap, protocol analysis with Wireshark. I can assure you that 90% of all of the SOC analyst job interviews are going to give you a PCAP file that you'll need to analyze in Wireshark. So it's good to start getting comfortable there. Then you'll move up to, some coding technologies. And I know PowerShell is not necessarily coding, but it's a Microsoft proprietary command line language, right? Attackers are using that, more and more. So you definitely need to get comfortable with that. Learn all of the powerful commandlets that are in PowerShell, and a lot of it will allow you to do your job really, really quickly, right? There was a question about the previous section about insider threats. That is, I would say that you can put them in the SOC. The insider threat teams are essentially looking for individuals that work for your organization that are causing harm to your organization. And there are a lot of insider threat tools out there. Let's go back to the IPv4 and IPv6 fundamentals. I am an IPv6 enthusiast. I have some talks on the website about IPv6. The communication and reporting, I'll say that again, the communication and reporting. I've had people tell me that, they don't even care what you know, but if you can't talk to people, they're not going to hire you, right? Especially in this field, right? You'll need to know, you'll need to be able to communicate. So a lot of times oftentimes it's a big open cubicle farm with people here, all around you. And, it's funny to see people, instant message someone that's sitting right next to them, right? Work on your soft skills, work on your communication skills, because you'll need to present, you want to be the person that is heavily relied upon, right? You want to be the boss's go-to person for whatever happens, right? It may be a pain, to have your SES or your GS14 come to you every time something happens, right? Hey, can you give me an explanation? What happened real quick? But if you can do that, right, that's going to add value to your position. There was a question about the difference between IDS and IPS. The IDS is your intrusion detection system, and your IPS is your intrusion prevention system. So it's the difference between a security monitor and a security guard. So the intrusion detection system does nothing but detect, but the prevention system is actually, it's reactive. So it actually does something. It can put blocks in place, and your detection system doesn't. So we're talking about, more places to start. And I'm sure that there will be things that are missed, right? So you want to know a lot of the terminologies, right? Before you even touch anything, right? You want to know what things like IOCs or indicators of compromise are. And that can be IP addresses, email addresses, MD5 hashes, malicious domain names, right? If you see your device communicating with a domain or responding to an email with this malicious email address, or responding to a known malicious IP address, or having an established connection with known IP address, then that's an indicator of compromise, a clear indicator of compromise. You want to know what a threat is, and there's a lot of talks. If you listen to good friend Jeff Mann talk about threats versus risks, it can get really deep because a lot of those things, although that there are formulas out there, it's very difficult to measure risk or to calculate threat, right? But knowing what a vulnerability is, the vulnerability is the weakness. So when it comes to the exploitation, there's three things that you need. You need a vulnerability, you need an exploit, and a payload. The vulnerability is the weakness. The exploit is the code created to take advantage of that weakness. And the payload is the communication mechanism that's going to occur after you exploit the machine. And I'm talking about, the offensive piece for a little bit because that's important, right? You need to understand the attacker techniques, attacker methodology, because the first few phases for defenders and attackers are exactly the same. Identify all of the hosts, identify all of the ports, identify all of the services, identify vulnerabilities, right? Both defenders and attackers are trying to identify what the vulnerabilities are. Once you identify the vulnerabilities, then there's a fork in the road. The defenders are going to try to mitigate or fix those vulnerabilities. The attackers are going to try to exploit those vulnerabilities. So the more familiar you are with those techniques and how to identify individuals that are trying to identify what these port services and vulnerabilities are, the better off you'll be. Then there's, things like attribution and advanced persistent threats, or APTs. You'll hear that a lot once you get into, or if you get into the cleared space. There's different code names for different APT groups. And for me, it was a lot of fun, but for you, it might be confusing, and that's okay at first. The attribution essentially means, who did it. And, honestly, I kind of go back and forth with the attribution. There's folks that love attribution, and then, there's folks that don't love it. Meaning, like, for me, there was a time where I didn't really care who did it. I just wanted to fix the problem. But then there's, other folks that want to know who did it and why and what tools they were using, how they got in, because they would want to be able to look for it, later on, and then attribute it to a group or an individual or what have you. And then some of your technologies, and this is kind of like the steps that you could actually take, like in order, understanding protocol analysis or net flow. So in your organization, once you get to the SOC, they'll have some type of net flow / protocol analysis tool. For you at home, you could use a free tool like Wireshark, right? Or Security Onion, which we'll talk about. And what that is you identifying and capturing all of the traffic that has ever occurred on your network. Yes, forever. Just doing that alone is a very daunting task, right? There's organizations that save everything that has ever happened so they can go back and do research and analysis on it later. People are buying entire buildings, tons and tons and tons of server space. Google bought an island, right? They're buying space, in cold places, putting servers underwater so they stay cool. That is going to be big business, right? It's very big business. Everything that you are doing or have done online is being recorded somewhere, and someone's probably profiting off of that information. Your operating system familiarization, right? You need to be comfortable looking at your machine, whether that's Windows, which is 90+% of the market, or if it's a Linux operating system. You shouldn't be uncomfortable on either one of them. Network mapping. You cannot defend a network if you don't know it's on it. You can't compromise a network if you don't know it's on it. We talked about identifying vulnerabilities. We talked about attack methodologies, but then there's also, firewalls and firewall rules and how to, get by firewalls. Your SIMs, your system incident and event management tools. Security Onion would be your first taste of a SIM tool. Splunk is another very, very popular one. Splunk is free for the first 500 megs. You can install Splunk on the internet if you want for about 10, 15 bucks a month, right? You can teach yourself how to use Splunk. You can host it on a free Linux VM if you want. One of the things that we didn't have is the opportunity to, create a lot of these mechanisms for free. And you can teach yourself incident handling and response. All of the things that I just talked about are free. I haven't mentioned anything that costs money, right? Unless you want to try to do it, at the organizational level. And we have talks that address that as well. The attack techniques, the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Definitely go and take a look at that. That is a really, really great resource for all of the different types of attack mechanisms that are out there. And then being comfortable with tools, like a lot of these tools, or all of these tools, command line tools, we talked about PowerShell, NetSH, Wireshark, the Windows system internals, which is essentially a zip file of about 30 something tools that will help you identify information about your machine. Nessus, Nmap is free. You can practice performing Nmap scans on your host machine, or scanme.nmap.org, right? You're allowed to scan that site. And then PowerShell. One of my favorite books is PowerShell in a Month of Lunches. So 30 to 40 minutes a day, you can teach yourself PowerShell. Let's talk about the process, right? I call this the process. I just coined that phrase today. If you can explain this, there's a great chance that you'll get the job, right? And it's good to, I'm seeing comments, it's good to have a lab at home, right? We have on our website, at the bottom of the website, there's a list. I think all the way to the right is essentially, I think it's called foundation tutorials. And that tutorials list, in my opinion, is the list to start with, because it's breaking into cyber, the home lab setup, passive recon, active recon, and that is a great set of foundational skills that you can get. So this is the process. What you want to do is, you want to, upon waking up, is that you want to try to identify what the latest and greatest threats and indicators of compromise are, right? And you can get that information from podcasts, Twitter, RSS feeds, emails, chat groups, Reddit, just depends on, who is in your circle and the type of information that they're sharing, right? And you want to get these indicators of compromise, and you want to see if any of these indicators exist in the tools that you have right now. So for instance, if I have Security Onion set up at home, normally what I do every morning is I listen to the SANS Internet Storm Center podcast with Johannes Ulrich. Johannes will talk about something. He'll mention IP address, and then on my security onion machine, I'll do a query to see if any of my machines attempted to communicate with this IP address. And this is important because that's one of the first steps. When you get to the SOC, especially, tier 1, right? Chances are, you know what? It's probably a 95% chance that you will not be able to touch anything. You will not be able to make any adjustments to any tools, any rule sets, any firewalls, any access control lists. Chances are they're going to just put you on the desk and wait for you to wait for you to respond to an alert that has already been created for you. So this is kind of like leading up to that. So where we are right now is, if you see, we're at the second bullet, where we're checking for the existence of these indicators. And if they exist, then you need to do something about that. And that means you want to know if that indicator has been seen before, right? So typically when you start your search, you'll start within the last hour, and then the last 24 hours, and then the last 48 hours, and then the last week, last month, and then eventually forever. Have I ever seen this? And if you have, then you're going to do some research to see who it's attributed to. Remember the attribution part? Then you'll need to determine how important that is, depending on the past attribution and who that activity was related to. Then you'll need to do some investigation, incident handling and response maybe, and then create a report that talks about what happened and what you did about it. And you want to write your reports just like you study, right? In as less words as possible. So on this day, at this time, this attacker attempted to do this, right? By, list what they did by scanning, these machines with these reports. This was the result of that. This is what we are doing about it. Oh, and by the way, we created a signature to help you detect this activity. Here it is. So now you have the opportunity to implement that signature in your, your signature tables, database, what have you. Give it a label. And typically, if someone creates a signature, they want to know that they've been helpful. And they'll say, hey, if you have any questions about this, or if you are seeing this on your network, let me know. And that's important because you have the opportunity to use that to add value. And you can say, not only am I seeing this activity, all of these other organizations are seeing this activity as well. And then depending on the type of organization, be it automotive, healthcare, now you have an idea of the types of organizations that this individual group is targeting. And then just like the Vegas analogy, you want to ensure that that information gets distributed to the rest of the intelligence community or the IC. There are some organizations that do some really great jobs doing that. CISA, right? Anytime CISA, CISA, however you want to call it, CISA, CISA, whenever they put out an alert, you should pay attention to it. There are organizations that are in charge of DoD, in charge of the public sector, in charge of .gov, right? I always ask those type of questions for budding SOC analysts. You tell me you want to be a SOC analyst, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Who are the top blue team folks out there? Who are the organizations that are already doing this? You don't know? Why not? You think a person who wants to play basketball doesn't know who Michael Jordan is? right? Doesn't know who Kobe Bryant or LeBron is. Like, why don't you know? Do you really want to be about this life or not? And, just so we're keeping it real, let's keep it really real. Alex, can you share this link? The longer you're in this field, right? The longer you're doing analysis, the higher the chance of you. Oh, I don't mean to curse. Let's block that. The higher the chance of you seeing something that no human should see, right? They may be coworkers under investigation. You may be aware of the investigation, but you can't say anything. Trust me, anything that involves kids, no questions asked, that person's out of it, right? But it may be something dumb, like, using your email address to, register for a porn site or something. Like, don't do that, right? But you may see pictures and videos and stuff. Obviously, you cannot actively go and look for this activity. But if you happen to see this activity while doing your job, then that's what happened. All right, so like I said, right, there's going to be a lot of things that, we can't address, in this short amount of time. We will build on this, right? And we'll talk tools in the future. We'll talk Wireshark in the future, Security Onion again. I've done maybe 3 or 4 talks about that already. And then we'll get into some of the things that we're going to see as our educational resources, right? Some mailing lists and RSS feeds, right? Some of my favorite podcasts, people, books, social media platforms. If you really want to be about this life, #BlueTeam, right? Don't forget to look at the red team stuff too. #BlueTeam. On Twitter, once you do a search for the #BlueTeam, you have options to identify what the latest news is, who the top people are. And those would be people that have blue team either in their profile or in their name. If someone puts blue team inside the summary of their profile, I'm going to assume they're pretty serious about that. There's content all over YouTube, conferences. It's good to do some capture the flag conferences. What's coming up? Blue Team Con is coming up. B-Sides Nova, Unicon is coming up. SANS does a lot of free webinars. We do a lot of free stuff, right? Who else? D for Diva. Can't thank her enough, right? We put a lot of free content on her website, so go and check that out. We'll keep going, right? Learning about different tools. All these are free. The DNSDB app, which is an app that allows you to search passive DNS records, right? So you'll know things like what a domain, what IP a domain resolved to, and vice versa. What are the subdomains that this are part of this top level domain? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you will. And things like what, so it's vice versa. So every IP that this domain has ever used and every domain that has used this IP. This is going to help when it comes time to figure out who you should and should not block. If you want to practice more, Brad Duncan and his team at Malware Traffic Analysis, they do an amazing job and have been doing an amazing job for years by creating challenges with PCAP files. There's TryHackMe, which is also free. A lot of rooms are created on there. You can also, in the cloud, create your own environment for little to no money. And then, of course, if you want to take some online and in-person classes. We have them all the way up to SANS, right? You want to get some GAC certs, you can do that. But also look for things like blue team workshops, SOC analyst workshops, SOC analyst training. If you're in a different location, you can do a search for Google Trends, right? So go to Google Trends, put in SOC analyst as the word, and then Google will tell you, the top states where SOC analyst is requested on Google. So that will give you an idea of where maybe you should look for jobs. And then lastly, just a couple of documents that I think are important. Of course, the NIST publications, 53 and 171. These, along with other documents you may have just on your desk, sitting there as a reference, right? That will eventually be your Bible. All right, so we just reached the 55-minute mark. If anyone has any questions, please throw that out there and we'll spend some time, addressing the questions. This presentation will be at the same link that you had, that you registered for it at. There'll be a copy of the video, there'll be the slides there. We will always use this slide deck. We'll continue to update this slide deck. So any changes that are made to it, you'll see it. The PowerShell book was called PowerShell in a Month of Lunches by Jeff Hicks and Don, definitely Jeff Hicks. Oh, if you didn't get the link for the meeting for this weekend's training, I will have to ensure that I do that, but I will share a link for everyone. So it's cover6solutions.com/read-ahead. So that link will help you prepare for our training in our workshops in case you decide to take one. But there's also a lot of videos there to help you get ready for class. Oh, the Discord link expired. Alex, can you send everyone a new Discord link? What time do I wake up in the morning to start my research? Every morning is different. I like to do my 5 miles in the morning. So I'm normally up by 6 a.m. to 6:30. And that is to, I like to get my day started while everyone is still asleep and it's quiet. But if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see that I'm up 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Would the TryHackMe defense pathway be a great start to learn the basics of blue teaming? I think the best start would be to Google basics of blue teaming and go there. TryHackMe is a platform that will get you some hands-on keyboard experience if you just go and visit the different rooms. It's also really, really great because for about $10 a month, there's the VIP. You can get VIP status and you can start joining these other rooms. We talked about Python. There was a question about Python. Yeah, learn Python. A lot of the scripts are written in Python. A lot of the exploits are written in Ruby. So learning, these scripting languages would really, really help you. Question, and just got my Security Plus and don't have a lot of practical experience. I'm trying TryHackMe, but want positions. I would look for positions on the watch floor. Like I mentioned, like a watch analyst or a cybersecurity analyst, and I would start building your lab a little bit more. The read ahead link was the link that I send to everyone that helps them prepare for our workshops. So even if you don't take the workshop, it is a repository for a lot of our educational videos. So normally I don't share that, but I just started sharing it with everyone, so it's all good. Can you use VirtualBox to install these tools? Yes, you can. For the workshop, do you need a Windows computer? It will help. It will help, but a lot of the tools we provide for you. So we have Security Onion machine in the cloud at onion.cover6.training. We also have a Splunk machine in the cloud at splunk.cover6.training. Is there any place that you can volunteer? This is what I would suggest. I would go to Twitter and say, hey, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm looking to volunteer at an organization. And you'll have a bunch of tweets. People will respond to that. We want to help you in the community. I would not suggest that you work for free for extended at all or for extended periods of time, but I understand you may have to do that. You know, I have my CEH. I'm looking to start training for the OSCP, somewhere to start the basics. Yeah, just start. No, I'm playing. So I would go on YouTube. I would go find IPSEC, IPPSEC. IPSEC has a ton of videos that show you how he exploited a lot of the hack the box machines. And then at TJ_null has an OSCP review or OSCP prep tutorial. I would go and look for OSCP prep material. Also, another one of my favorite people, Rana Khalil. Definitely look at Rana. She has some of the greatest write-ups I have seen. She just started her YouTube channel, so that's great. Who was my go-to person of Blue Team? Someone you look forward to get motivated and learn. Honestly, if I could recommend someone right now that I think you should follow, I would go and find Marcus Bowie, Commandant Bowie. Really, really good, eager, passionate Blue Team person. Thoughts on Range Force? Never. I have yet to try it. I have yet to try it. All right, so we're going to close. I would definitely look for, conferences in your area, bsides.org. I'm pretty sure that there will be a local bsides for your city, or a city that's clear, or a city that's close to you. Also, I would, look at cfptime.org. And that is a website that will have the call for presentations for all of these conferences. It's a good idea to see when the upcoming conferences are coming. On our website, on the homepage of our website, we have a community events tab, and I list a lot of the conferences there as well. All right, one more time. Where are we tuning in from? Where in the world are we tuning in from? Let me see it. TJ Null, TJ_Null, N-U-L-L. Poconos, Edison, New Jersey, Little Rock, Arkansas, India, Germany, Orlando, Woodbridge. Thank you so much for tuning in. Texas, stay warm out there. Kosovo, Bermuda, Hampton Roads, Mason, New Jersey, Vancouver. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. San Diego, I want to go to San Diego. Yes, you all are very welcome. Thank you all for attending meetup.com/DC Cyber Warriors, or follow me on Twitter or at Cover6 Solutions everywhere as well. We are always looking for new speakers. We are always trying to bring in speakers. You can check out our YouTube playlist for all of our past talks. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I am here for you. I want you all to have a great day. If you want to see me again tonight, I will be on Davin Jackson's show, InfoSec Unplugged, at 6 p.m. and we'll post that to the website. You want your Cover6 shirt? We can make that happen. We can make that happen. All right. If anyone wants to continue to chat, there is a Discord channel, and we'll be on Discord. So we'll post this to the website soon. We'll post this to the YouTube channel, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. And I believe next week we're doing pen testing with Beef. So that should be a lot of fun. Make sure you sign up for that. Yeah, so all the links and everything will be sent in a follow-up video in a follow-up email in case you missed it all. But the Discord link was just sent in the chat. All right. Woo! Have a great day, everyone. Thank you all for attending. I look forward to seeing you all next week.